Hello, it's Friday the 6th of March. I'm Simon Whitney and welcome to issue 119 of Travers Smith's Sustainability Insights. And this week we're looking at the UK's rollout of sustainability disclosure standards. Policymakers have slowed their urgent push for broad-based sustainability reporting. 3 years ago, most people expected that comprehensive mandatory sustainability disclosures would soon cover many European private companies and many of the private equity funds that backed them. But last week, as the EU gave final sign-off on its omnibus package of simplification measures, the UK government confirmed its gentle, phased approach to new standards. The narrative in Europe has clearly changed. The rhetoric has moved from bold and rapid lawmaking to incrementalism. The changes in the EU are stark. As we've written before, it's remarkable that the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD, has been so dramatically scaled back just a few years after it was passed, before its requirements had hit most companies. And although the UK had already embarked on a different path, it has been taking careful note of the deliberations in Brussels. The EU's reform package does not only slash the scope of sustainability reporting, catching far fewer private companies and asset managers, it also cuts due diligence obligations, removes a requirement to publish and implement a transition plan, and scraps an EU-wide civil liability regime. Moreover, the EU has also taken welcome steps to mitigate the trickle-down impact of the new rules on smaller businesses. Meanwhile, in the UK, the government published its own sustainability reporting standards, so-called UK SRS, last week. These are modelled on the standards published by the International Sustainability Standards Board, the ISSB, albeit with some minor modifications. But for the time being, these standards are available for voluntary use. They are not yet compulsory. That will soon change, at least to some extent. The UK's financial regulator, the FCA, is now consulting on a rule change that will require their use by many listed companies. And the impact may go wider. The UK government says that it will launch a consultation later this year to determine whether to require other, quotes, economically significant private companies, close quotes, to use the standards. But any change will not be dramatic. The UK standards, like the ISSB's, comprise a general standard, UK SRS S1, and a climate-specific one, UK SRS S2. S2 is based on and adds some additional requirements to the TCFD reporting framework. Reporting on climate-related risks and opportunities is already mandatory for many asset managers and large private companies in the UK, and the new standard is being phased in gradually to allow firms time to adjust. Moreover, the final version of the UK standards even gives companies the option to limit their disclosure to climate-related risks and opportunities permanently, although it's not yet clear whether that option will be available for listed companies and others when they become subject to mandatory reporting requirements. But the government has clearly heard the message that any new requirements must be carefully calibrated, with assumed benefits carefully balanced against the burdens for reporting entities. This cost-benefit analysis is perhaps most difficult for private companies. Although the government says that there is broad support for mandatory requirements to apply to large private companies, it has also received a clear message from consultation respondents, quotes, proportionality is the priority, close quotes. There are several reasons why some level of mandatory requirement is actually helpful. As respondents to the government's consultation pointed out, mandatory requirements can ensure comparability. They can level the playing field. They can provide helpful information to debt providers. They ensure that management and board directors have strategically important information available to them, which will support effective corporate governance. But these justifications for mandatory disclosure are not a blank cheque. A recent review of evidence from earlier UK disclosure mandates reports that mandatory climate-related disclosure in the UK led to significant one-off but persistent reductions in corporate emissions. However, and importantly for private markets, This research does not tell us why listed companies change their behaviour and whether we would expect those changes to be replicated in non-listed businesses with one or more dominant shareholders. It's not yet clear whether the UK government's manifesto commitment to require regulated asset managers and some large companies to adopt and implement Paris-aligned transition plans will be fully met, but the mood music suggests this may also be diluted. Last year's consultation on the topic was open to less demanding options, many respondents supporting a comply or explain approach, which, as we argued at the time, might actually deliver more useful disclosures. For now, that comply or explain approach is also the FCA's chosen model for listed companies. Taken together, the EU reforms and the UK's tentative recent steps reflect a different political climate in Europe. There is no change in the view that sustainability impacts, especially but not only those relating to climate, are financially material for many businesses. The wider societal impacts are also still priorities for lawmakers. There is, however, less blind faith in the power of disclosure to deliver change on the scale needed, and there is more explicit recognition of the burden. Whether the pendulum has swung too far is a matter for debate, but private capital firms will have more time to adjust to impending changes than they might have expected. Many will see this incremental approach, with a focus on what matters most, as a positive change. The UK still aspires to be a world leader for sustainable finance, but its tentative rollout is in line with global trends. Regulators will, though, hope that sustainability initiatives do remain a priority for firms and their portfolio companies, even if they have made reporting on them less demanding. Thank you for listening. If you would like more information on this topic, please check out the ESG Toolkit on our website, where you can also sign up to receive future editions of these insights, or you can drop me an email, simon.whitney@traverssmith.com.